Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. This is episode 9 of Join.
9.
That's not 9. Join the Late Bloomers. We are. Oh, I saw your. We're so glad to have you today, and today we're talking about
Relationships. We're talking about relationships today.
relationships.
And in our last episode, we talked about our relationships with
Customers.
customers. Today, we're going to shift that focus to having positive relationships with those who work for us. Those who work with us. I'm talking about our employees. Now, at this moment in time, we have 2 part-time employees.
Yes, we do.
Looking to add 1 or 2 more. And you may not be there. You may already have like a few dozen employees. You may have a dozen. You may have 2 like us. Or it might just be yourself and your spouse or
Just yourself.
or your kids.
That too.
Having your kids help. Having your mom help. I want to start off with a couple quotes. So, first quote.
This is fun.
By Theodore Roosevelt. The best executive, that's us, is the one who has the sense enough to pick good men to do what he wants done, and self-restraint to keep from meddling with them while they do it.
That's good.
Tina Fey said it in another way. She said,
Tina Fey.
we used to watch 30 Rock together, and that was funny. She was a boss in
She was
30
a
Rock.
boss.
She said, in most cases, being a good boss means hiring talented people and then getting out of their way.
All right. That's great.
Yeah. So,
Pick some good ones. Sometimes you have to meddle, though, I will have to say that. When you talked about Roosevelt's quote, sometimes meddling is important.
well, I think the point is that you're letting people thrive in what they do well. And then meddling, I think a better word is correcting. We
Yes.
have to, if you want work done your way, that
Yep.
does involve redirecting your employees. Hey, this is how we should do it. And so I think of myself, and you might have an example. When I was, I think I was a senior in high school, I worked at Gemco. You guys remember Gemco? It used to be owned by Albertsons. It's kind of like what Target is today. You got your department store, but you have a grocery store as well. And Gemco was that. And I had 2 bosses. I worked in the jewelry department.
That's hilarious.
And the main guy
can't
was
see you doing
Art, and Art was cool. And we knew Art because he held a pen like this. And then the assistant manager, I can't remember his name. I think it was like Daniel or something. And what I remember of him, how I remember him is he dressed like Dwight Schrute from The Office. And he kind of acted like him as well.
Oh,
he was
boy.
very bossy. It was like he didn't want to be bothered. He's like, let me tell you what to do. This is what you do. Don't bother me. We're good. But Art, on the other hand, he was a leader. He was like, let me show you how it's done, because maybe one day you might be the manager.
Right.
And so even as a young teenager, I recognized the contrast between the 2
Yeah.
types of managers. One, he's a boss, he's going to be bossy, and the other one is, I'm going to lead you, I'm going to help you grow in this job. So if you can imagine me as a 17-year-old, who'd I'd rather work for? It was definitely not Dwight Schrute. It was Art.
Wow, that's a great story. Why are you laughing?
Your turn.
I think sometimes you have to be mainly the Art in the situation when you're a boss, but sometimes you have to be the Dwight Schrute. Sometimes. Maybe a tiny mix. He doesn't look happy. Look at your face. A tiny mix. I said a tiny mix because sometimes to get your point across, you kind of have to be a little bit more. Look at your face. Don't make that face. You kind of have to have that authoritative tone it's almost like being a parent. And maybe it's because we do have younger employees right now, but sometimes I'm just going to be honest. There are days that I come in here, I don't want to be the boss. Like I'm sure everyone has those moments. You just don't want to
be the boss.
Yeah, you've got a list of things to do, and
Sure.
when you are the one in charge, you have to make sure that all your stuff is ready and all of your employee stuff is ready. Otherwise, you're in trouble.
So there definitely is a lot of work.
Yeah, so there's moments where if you don't have what you need ready for them to do, then you're floundering. So,
well, I think it's okay to be human and imperfect. But when you lead your employees, and I think they'll be definitely, depending on the personality, of course, you want to pick employees who are pliable and are teachable. And when you do that and you lead them, I think they're open to your correction more so than other people.
And that's the not fun part, I feel like, of being a leader or a boss, is the correcting part. That's the part that's not what I want to do. That's where I feel like when we're talking about this, I understand the leading, I understand the art being that is very important. That is what it should be. But I feel like the Dwight part is the correcting part. And that's the part that I don't like. Sometimes I feel like you have to do that. And I'm not saying in a jerk way. I get it.
I think I might have had the wrong analogy.
No, you're doing it right. I'm
Dwight.
just, yeah.
I'm not saying the whole picture, because like Art told us what to do, and he told us he's very clear about what he expected if we were, he had a team of teenagers. People going to college. There's about 6 of us, but he was very clear about what he wanted done that day. But because he was a leader, we were more likely, instead of feeling obligated, well, he's the boss, I got to do it. It's like, I want to do it. And when Dwight was in charge, it was like, nah, just do whatever he says, so he'll leave us alone. And he wanted to be left alone too, so the feeling was mutual.
Well, sometimes we have those Dwight days, I think, as being a boss. I think sometimes we have those Dwight days where we just, as bad as this might sound, like sometimes we just need that time to do what we got to do, and then we're ready to do what needs to be done and be more like the art. It's okay to have those days, but just don't be like that all the time. Sorry, Dwight, if you're watching this. You never know, that actor could watch this.
Michael!
That actor could watch this episode of our podcast someday. So no offense there, but yeah, I think a good mix is what's needed. And I think being able to relate to different personalities is important too, because what might come across to one of my employees as, I don't know, the wrong way. They might think that I'm being rude or insensitive. To the other person, it's just what they need. Does that make sense?
Yes.
You want to expound on that at all? Or?
Yeah, you have to know the people that work for you.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
They're working with you, but they work for you.
Yeah.
You are the supervisor, and in our case, we're also their company. We write out the paychecks.
Yeah, we're HR and the boss, and
we're the trainers.
Yeah, it's interesting.
We're the schedulers. We're everything.
Our poor employees. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
anyway.
Small business.
Yep.
There you go. We're not the target where there's different departments that handle.
No.
We are every single department.
We are. So we've been very fortunate to have them be patient with us when it comes to certain things. So
yes,
we appreciate that. But anyway, I think also realizing when you're in that position of being a boss or a position of authority, humility goes a long way. And being able to admit that you've messed up, and even being able to admit that to your employees. You know what? I'm sorry I messed this up. We're going to do this. Or.
Yes.
But definitely having your procedure policy manual is important, Joe.
Yeah.
We're still working on ours. We are still working on ours, believe it or
handbook.
not. So
yeah.
Anyway. Anything
Yeah.
else you wanted to say, babe? You got some tips?
I think just creating a positive environment,
Mhm.
definitely. Being very clear about what you expect. I think if you I'm going to butcher it, but if you inspect it, I'm ruining it. But if you follow up and say, "I want to see this done," I think there's the accountability part that
Yeah.
you want from your employees.
Mhm. And in some ways, I feel like it's being a parent because you kind of do the same thing with your kids.
Yeah.
You lay out the expectations, you lay out what you want done for the day, and you'll come back to make sure that that's happened. It's the follow-up or the follow-through sometimes.
Yes.
And the discipline that's really the hardest part, I think.
Yeah.
Nobody
think-
likes to confront unless you're Dwight all the time.
I think if you have as the boss, you have the vision, even for the day. It doesn't have to be. It's the
Right.
grand vision of what you want your business to accomplish. But even just for the day, if you have that in mind, then you can take your team. So, like in our case, when we do like weddings and events, and we might have 1 or 2 people with us.
Mm-hmm.
Just having that vision and, hey, this is the way we're going to go, communicating that, following up, being very, very, what's the word, communicative?
Mm-hmm.
Being making sure there's that communication so everyone knows what they're supposed to be doing, and
I could definitely work on that.
celebrating the wins with your team when it's good.
It's
It's
good.
like, hey,
Yep.
we did good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Anything else?
I think that's it.
Well, actually, you guys could be a part of it. Give us your tips.
Yes, please.
In the comments
Could use
below, tell us how are you a good boss,
Mhm.
or what have you found to be successful when you have people on your team.
It's good. Yep.
So if you are enjoying this content and it is helping you as
Hopefully it is.
an entrepreneur, as a small business owner, please like it and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Yes. Follow us on YouTube.
And talk. We want to see the comments.
Yeah.
And
Give us some advice.
yes. Okay.
All right.
And we'll see you at the next podcast, the next episode.
All right. Sounds good.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.